The Tuesday lunch rush always came with a side of country music, fried pickles, and opinions nobody asked for. At Lane 12 Diner, there were unspoken rules. You tip your server, you don't bring up politics, and you sure as hell don't cross the good old boys at table 5. They weren't in uniform, but everyone knew who they were: the mayor's cousin, the sheriff's brother-in-law, and Dean Rollins, ex-varsity linebacker turned small-town power broker. They didn't own the diner, but they acted like they did. Across the room by the window sat Will Rayner, quiet, long hair tucked into a weathered knit cap, Marine vet, paralyzed from the waist down. He didn't bother anyone, just sipped his coffee, stared out the window like he was watching ghosts. Jessie noticed the smirk first. Dean elbowed his buddy and muttered something she didn't catch. But she caught the tone, that cocky, dismissive air, the same one she'd heard from landlords, teachers, cops. The kind that said, "People like that don't belong here." Will didn't look up, but his hand froze on the mug. Then came the comment, loud enough for half the diner to hear. "Wonder if Uncle Sam gives frequent flyer miles for pity." Laughter, slaps on the back. One of them actually barked like a dog. Jessie stood there holding a plate of chicken fried steak, heart pounding in her ears. And in that moment, in the space between cowardice and consequence, she made her choice. She walked over to table 5, not fast, not angry, just done. "You're gonna apologize," she said, voice low and steady. "Right now, or you're gonna leave." Dean leaned back, grinning like a cartoon villain. "You serious, sweetheart?" Jessie didn't blink. She wasn't thinking about tips or rent. She was thinking about the years she spent watching men like him cut corners, dodge consequences, and laugh off pain they'd never experienced. Last chance. Dean's smirk faded. "You're going to regret this," he said, standing up slow. She didn't flinch, just pointed at the door. They left, but not before muttering something about her not lasting the week. Jessie turned, caught Will's eyes for half a second. He gave the smallest nod she'd ever seen, barely there, but it was enough. She thought that would be the end of it. She was wrong. Jessie didn't sleep that night. She kept replaying it in her head, not the confrontation, but the silence afterward. How the other tables avoided her eyes. How her manager muttered something about tone and regulars as she clocked out. By morning, the town had already chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. At 8:12 a.m., she got the call. "We're going to have to let you go." No discussion, no explanation, just corporate cowardice wrapped in syrupy PR. "You've become a distraction, Jess." And just like that, 10 years of double shifts and burnt fingers got tossed in the trash like expired creamers. Across town, Will Rayner watched the rain slide down his front window. He wasn't surprised. Not really. He'd been paralyzed longer than people remembered. He was a Marine. Wheelchairs make folks uncomfortable, especially in towns that still think standing equals strength. He hadn't told anyone what happened, not until the call came. It wasn't to his VA counselor, not to a reporter, not even to his brother. It was to someone listed in his contacts as Sarge. No rank, no name, just that one word. It rang twice. "Yeah?" "She got fired," Will said. "Because of me." A pause, then just one word back. "Where?" In the foothills of North Carolina, a retired master sergeant put down his coffee mid-sip. He walked into the shed out back, where a dusty rucksack still sat under the flag he'd folded 100 times. Inside the ruck, boots, an old KABAR, and a list, not of enemies, of friends. He started dialing. By noon, the phones were buzzing. Nobody posted online. No hashtags, no outrage porn, just quiet calls, old bonds. Jessie stood up. She needs to know she wasn't wrong. "We move at 1400. At exactly 1:58 p.m., the first vehicle pulled into the Lane 12 parking lot. a '95 Suburban, Army sticker on the bumper. The driver stepped out, jeans, flannel, Vietnam vet cap. Then came another, and another. Retired Rangers, Navy corpsmen, a man missing 2 fingers, and a woman with a recon tattoo wrapped around her forearm. None of them said a word. They just stood, silent, watching, waiting. Inside the diner, Dean Rollins nearly choked on his beer. He was already holding court again, loud, obnoxious, full of stories that shifted depending on who was listening. Then he saw the parking lot. What the hell? The waitress on duty peeked outside, and her jaw dropped. They kept coming, one after another. By 2:14 p.m., over 100 stood shoulder to shoulder, not protesting, not blocking anything, just being there. The presence itself was pressure, a reminder. This time, the silence belonged to them. And the town noticed, telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The sheriff showed up at 2:27 p.m., not with lights, not with backup, just him, alone, tapping his belt like a nervous tick, trying to read the room, or rather the parking lot. He didn't like what he saw, men and women from every branch. No signs, no slogans, no weapons, just presence. Heavy, unmoving, undeniable presence. He found Will near the edge of the crowd, beside a black truck with a Gold Star license plate. "Will," the sheriff said, forcing a smile, "mind telling me what this is?" Will looked up, calm as ever. "It's not a protest, Sheriff, just breakfast." The sheriff shifted, clearing his throat. "This don't look like breakfast." Will nodded once toward the diner. "She lost her job standing up for someone who couldn't." The sheriff sighed. "You know I can't take sides." Will didn't flinch. "You already did." Inside, the owner of Lane 12 was sweating through his collar. He watched through the blinds like it was a storm gathering. It was. Only this storm didn't rage. It waited. His phone lit up with missed calls. The mayor, the local news station, a buddy from Rotary. And then Dean came storming in from the bar counter like he still ran the town. "Bunch of washed-up wannabes," he scoffed. "What are they going to do, hold a bake sale?" The owner didn't answer, because suddenly it didn't feel like them against Jessie. It felt like him against something bigger, something old, something earned. By 3:03 p.m., half the town had driven past the diner. Nobody went in, nobody left. They just circled, slowed down, stared, like they were passing a monument being built in real time. Kids in car seats asked, "Who are they?" And for once their parents didn't have an easy answer. Jessie was home. She hadn't left since the firing. She didn't want pity, didn't want a GoFundMe or a 5-minute news clip. She just wanted to forget. Until her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She ignored it. Then another, and another. Then a text from an unknown number, "Check your porch." She opened the door. There was a note taped to a box of donuts and a hot coffee. Not all uniforms come with paychecks. Some come with backbones. She sat on the steps, stunned. Then she looked down the block and saw them. 3 men in camo jackets standing at the edge of her yard. They didn't wave. They just nodded. By morning, Lane 12 Diner was trending on veteran forums. Not TikTok, not Twitter. Real channels, the kind with acronyms nobody outside the service understood. Nobody leaked footage. Nobody filmed a thing. But word spread anyway. Fast. She stood up. "They fired her. We showed up." That was all they needed. The mayor called an emergency town council meeting, which meant a closed-door circle of denial. "We can't get involved," someone muttered. "This could be bad for business," said another. Meanwhile, downtown traffic had doubled. Not from tourists, but from folks driving slowly past Lane 12 to see if it was true. If they were still there, they were. Same men, same jackets, same silence. But something had shifted. They weren't alone anymore. Locals started showing up. A mechanic from East Side with a Vietnam pin on his hat. A teacher who remembered Will from her first period civics class. Even the pastor who parked his rusted Buick between two lifted trucks got out and said nothing. Just stood. It wasn't a protest. It was a reckoning. Jessie sat on her porch staring at the shoes she hadn't put on in 2 days. She didn't feel like a hero, didn't feel strong. She felt tired, disposable, fired for doing the right thing. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost let it go. But something told her to pick up. A voice, older, gravel-throated, came through. "You're not forgotten, Jessie, not by a damn long shot." She tried to speak but couldn't. The voice continued. "Don't let cowards rewrite the story. We've seen enough of that in our day." Click. At 10:41 a.m., Jessie walked out her front door. Hair pulled back, same work shoes, same flannel from Tuesday's shift. She didn't go to the store, didn't go to the unemployment office. She walked to lane 12. The crowd didn't move when they saw her, didn't cheer, didn't chant. They just made space. And she walked through it, silent, upright, like someone walking into a courtroom to testify. She opened the door. The bell rang. The same one that rang every day of her life for 10 years. Inside, her old co-workers froze. The new waitress, brought in just yesterday, stepped back. Jessie walked straight to her old station behind the counter and looked at the manager. "I'm not here for your job," she said. "I'm here for the truth." And then, before he could even open his mouth, she reached under the counter, pulled out the coffee pot, and filled a mug for Will, like she always had. The picture hit Facebook before she even set the coffee down. Someone snapped it from outside Dash. Jessie, behind the counter, pouring a cup for Will, while the good old boys at table 5 sat frozen in their chairs. The caption read, "She's back, and she never left." It spread like wildfire. People didn't even know what it meant, but they felt it. By lunchtime, the local radio station was running a poll. Should Lane 12 reinstate Jessie? Votes poured in from old friends, from high school rivals, from strangers who just knew what it felt like to be punished for doing the right damn thing. Dean Rollins sat in his truck, door ajar, watching the crowd grow again. But something was off now. He wasn't getting nods anymore. No one slapped his back. No, "How you been, brother?" People crossed the street to avoid him. He didn't just lose a bar stool, he'd lost the room. The owner of Lane 12 was sweating again. He'd tried to stay out of it, tried to play both sides. But now? Now there were pickup trucks out front, with signs taped to the windows, "We don't tip cowards." Jessie stood up, "So should you." One even said, "I drink coffee where vets stand tall." His wife begged him, "Fix this." But there wasn't a policy manual for this kind of thing. You can't refund integrity. You either have it or you don't. At 2:07 p.m., the news van rolled in. Channel 7, local affiliate. Reporter with a forced smile and a wind-blown mic, trying to find the angle. But the crowd wasn't there for the cameras. They were there for Jessie and for Will. The reporter tried to pull Will aside. "Can you tell us what today means to you?" Will looked at the camera, not through it, into it. "It means I wasn't crazy to believe people still had a spine." Then he wheeled himself to the center of the lot. "Jessie," he called out, voice steady, "you didn't just pour coffee that day. You poured a line in the sand." The crowd was dead silent. Then, one by one, they started clapping, not loud, not performative, just solid, and it built, until even the sheriff, still leaning against his cruiser, gave one reluctant, gruff nod of respect. Inside, the manager stepped out of the kitchen, face pale. He didn't speak to Jessie. He just put her name back on the schedule, right where it had been. Then he walked out the back door and didn't return. The crowd didn't cheer. They just watched as Jessie hung up her apron, not to work, but to own what she'd done. She wasn't back. She wasn't gone. 3 days later, the parking lot was empty again. No crowds, no news vans, just the usual beat-up trucks and coffee-stained regulars. But something had shifted. Dean Rollins didn't show his face again. Rumor was he moved his business out of town. Couldn't take the looks, the silence, the polite nods that didn't reach the eyes anymore. Lane 12 didn't fire Jessie again, but she didn't take her job back either. She came in sometimes, not to work, just to sit. And when she did, people noticed. Veterans bought her lunch. Young women watched her like she was a living chapter in a history book. Even the new waitress asked if she could train under her. Jessie just smiled. "I'm not the story," she said once. "I just stopped letting someone else write it for me." Will still came in every Thursday, still sat by the window, still ordered the same coffee, black, no sugar. But now, when he rolled in, people nodded, not out of pity, out of respect. One afternoon he pulled a folded bill out of his coat pocket and tucked it under a napkin holder. The waitress picked it up, confused. It was a $20 bill wrapped around a photo. The photo was old, grainy, from a deployment. 8 men in a row, arms around each other. One had his eyes closed. One was smiling like he knew something the others didn't. Written on the back, "We stand for each other, even when we can't." By the end of the month, someone put up a plaque near the front door. It wasn't fancy, just a bronze plate screwed into the brick. For those who speak up when it counts, for those who stand, even when they sit, and for the ones who never walk away. No name, no logo. Just that. Jessie never asked who paid for it. Will never claimed it. Nobody needed to. If you've ever stood alone and wondered if it mattered, if you've ever been punished for doing what was right, if you believe that decency still means something, then share this story. And if it hit you in the chest, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave your mark in the comments. We read them all, because this isn't just a story, it's a reminder. Some people don't wear capes, some wear aprons, and some show up when it counts.